nobody around to tell them what to do, and they just get to act a fool. Free Beyonce.
We love y'all. We want y'all to get it right, at least get it close to right. And obviously it's subjective. Y'all don't gotta clap at everything.
I wanted to find out who my father was, and for the case not to go how I was planning it, I really thought it was gonna go different than.
They built an empire on silence. But what happens when that silence shatters? Right now, the whispers swirling around Beyoncé and Jay-Z are deafening. And this time, it ain't just about music, fashion, or even power. Nah, this is about betrayal, legacy, and a secret so heavy it could blow up the whole Carter dynasty, according to court chatter and explosive legal filings. Word on the street is a judge actually ordered Jay-Z to take a DNA test because Ramir Satwa, a 31-year-old dude with an uncanny resemblance to the rap legend, claims he's the product of a brief and buried fling from the early 90s. If those results back up what Ramir's been shouting for over a decade, this scandal won't stop at a name on a paternity paper. It could wreck the most untouchable marriage in showbiz. And insiders say Queen Bey might already be packing her crown, ready to walk away. Behind the scenes, it looks like Beyoncé's been planning a clean escape. Quietly, smart, and maybe for years. Real estate trackers and private jet watchers noticed something fishy. Solo flights logged under her team's secret aliases, hush-hush escrow deals for fancy pads in Malibu and Paris, and even bodyguards being pulled from Jay-Z's crew, one veteran security insider revealed. She's been training for independence like it's the championship of her life. And she's winning, no doubt. That ain't just distance, that's pure detachment. Let's be real. This is not a woman who leaves anything to luck, not with billions on the line, 3 kids, and an image empire slicker than Wall Street itself.
Not just about me. If I gotta fight for all of us, I will, but I won't let the court systems just walk over me. I won't let Jay-Z, I won't let no one just walk over me and tell me something because y'all just saying this. I want the truth. And if we can't go to the Supreme Courts, the regular courts, to find out the truth, what are they here for?
Yeah, all right, we'll get to the legal things that you've been through, the battles.
Now let's talk symbols. Because when it comes to Beyoncé, her symbols scream louder than her words ever could. Fans used to obsess over that famous IV tattoo on her ring finger, matching Jay's, honoring birthdays, wedding vows, and straight-up destiny. But lately, that 4 has vanished, laser zapped, hidden in photos, and eventually, just gone. Her left hand now sparkles with designer ice, no longer tied to yesterday's love. And knowing Beyoncé, who even crafts her Instagram captions like sacred scripture, that wasn't no accident. That was a quiet funeral for their bond. While some fans tried to write it off as just a fashion switch, insiders are calling it what it really is, a message. And the drama keeps heating up. Multiple legal sources tied to the Ramir Satwa case are spilling about what they're calling a full-on separation simulation. According to an entertainment attorney connected to Roc Nation, Beyoncé's team started building a serious legal firewall way back in 2021, like she saw the storm coming.
Obviously it's subjective because, it's music and it's opinion-based, but,
That plan included scoping out offshore trust firms, locking down separate high-end leases just for her and the kids, and, get this, allegedly hiring a second legal squad focused not on business contracts, but straight-up family law. That's right, divorce prep, not reactive, proactive. And it's slick because it shows Beyoncé wasn't caught off guard by all this drama. She might have been bracing for it the whole time. Which brings us back to Ramir. He's not just some random name splashed in tabloids. He's a young man who spent most of his life fighting to get Jay-Z to even look his way. His mom, Wanda, filed affidavits. His guardians hustled for legal standing. But every single door they knocked on seemed to vanish into sealed files and shady procedural loopholes. A man with no father versus a man with the sharpest lawyers money can buy. Until now, because somewhere in all this courtroom chaos, a thread finally came loose. A judge, still unnamed, has reportedly ordered Jay-Z to take a DNA test. And word is, Beyoncé's patience has run out. She's tired of waiting to see how he handles this mess.
So at what age then did you start to question, who your parents could be?
Well, I wouldn't say
Father
I
was?
started to question it, but I said around like 7, maybe 6. And I think it started at 6. And my mom was just telling me that my father wasn't my father. But as a kid, I really didn't look.
We're hearing the trust is shattered. Not just because of what Ramir represents, but because of how deep they buried the whole situation. Beyoncé is said to have known about the allegations years ago, but only recently learned just how far Jay-Z's legal team went to bury them. And the whispers? They're getting louder by the day. We've heard from 2 former Roc Nation execs and a paralegal tied to the New Jersey case that Jay-Z's lawyers allegedly offered favors or backroom deals to a court figure connected to Roc Nation, supposedly just to get Ramir's case tossed on a technicality. That story hasn't exploded in the press yet. But in music law circles, it's spreading like wildfire. Even if half of it turns out to be true, the fallout would be massive. This ain't just some personal betrayal anymore. This starts to look like a straight-up conspiracy to silence a young man just to protect the brand. And Beyoncé, the queen who built her whole image on female power, family healing, and mama bear energy. Now she risked being seen as a silent accomplice. Not a good look for the woman who turned heartbreak into lemonade. The silence starts to feel less like strength and more like cold strategy. But there's only so long you can play quiet before the world demands you speak. Meanwhile, the couple's public appearances have slipped into downright eerie territory.
Actually, my mom was at a show and she was with a friend. And I guess her and her friend stayed to, after the show, he was doing little signings and little autographs and stuff like that. I guess he wasn't too big, but I guess females, when the show is over, you can sign little autographs and stuff like that, talk to the people who perform. She said she went up there.
They show up to galas in separate cars, flash stiff smiles without even touching each other. At a family dinner in LA, they sat at opposite ends of the table, surrounded by PR handlers but barely saying a word. And when Beyoncé took Blue Ivy to the grand opening of Jay-Z's exhibition in Brooklyn, she rolled up in her own ride, threw a perfect rehearsed smile, and dipped out before the after-party even started. One of the staffers at the library event summed it up perfectly. She looked like a woman doing a job, not a wife honoring her husband. That kind of fracture creeps up so quiet, you don't even catch it, until the pictures stop moving and start looking staged. Now, fans are combing through old interviews, lyrics, even performances, hunting for the hidden signs.
All appears calm and normal until Solange Knowles, Beyoncé's sister, lunges at her brother.
Some are stuck on that moment at Beyoncé's Renaissance film premiere when Jay-Z leaned in for a kiss, and she turned just enough for it to land on her cheek instead. Others are dissecting her tour wardrobe, gold and silver replacing her old blues and blacks, diamonds shining where the wedding ring used to sit, and not a single nod to Jay-Z in her speeches. Even when she swept through awards season like a thunderstorm, she thanked her family, she thanked the fans. But her husband? Not one word. All of this is casting a huge shadow over Jay-Z's own crisis. While he's out here fighting fresh lawsuits tied to the alleged paternity and some old misconduct claims, ranging from shady deflection to straight-up fraud and even darker accusations, Beyoncé seems to be quietly plotting her escape.
Anything, so why wouldn't I believe my mom? We could have been settled this, and it only takes a conversation and some words. I'm not a hateful guy. I don't hate anyone. I'm not after nobody. I'm not trying to see no one downfall. But this is just some things that just went through court, and they just expected me to just sit there and just take what they were saying.
Her team has locked down media questions, dropped soft denials about divorce rumors, and even reposted some old family photos to calm the storm. But behind the curtain, the scene looks very different. We've seen this play before: controlled optics, public distance, and a slow, deliberate rebranding. Beyoncé Knowles, not Mrs. Carter. And for anyone thinking this is just a rough patch, One source close to her Houston circle claims she's already met twice with a top-tier family law attorney known for handling quiet, high-stakes celebrity breakups. That ain't gossip. That's on the calendar. And if the court-ordered DNA test backs up what Ramir's been saying since 2010, Beyoncé's exit might not just be personal. It might be political. Because at a time when she's standing for justice reform and female resilience, staying silent next to a man with these kinds of accusations on his name may not even be an option anymore. Let's not forget, this isn't just about a paternity test. This is about a legacy.
10 years ago, they say this was a party for Diddy's son, King Combs, but all the names involved here are huge.
Huge.
Talking Beyoncé, Jay-Z, LeBron James. Now, all of those people are just witnesses, according to this lawsuit.
Jay-Z and Beyoncé didn't just build a marriage. They built a myth. The Bonnie and Clyde of music, the ultimate power couple of all power couples. But if the whispers are real, if there's bribery, betrayal, and a child whose only crime was being born, then everything they created could come crashing down. The image, the brand, the empire, and the fuse may already be lit. Because the whispers about a judge being influenced, they didn't come from gossip blogs. They came from people who were actually in the room. We don't yet know if that story will go fully public, but if it does, it could flip everything upside down. And while Beyoncé's camp stays dead silent, what's bubbling under all that polished calm seems way more dangerous than just marital heartbreak. If this split goes down, and by all signs it already is behind the scenes, the fallout won't just be about who gets the Bel Air mansion or who controls the Instagram vibe. No, this is about what comes to light. Because what started as one man pushing a paternity claim might now crack open a decade of sealed court files, ignored subpoenas, and names popping up in way too many shady places. Places now tied to several federal investigations.
He took them to some apartment building and, you know, they did what they did in there, you know, talked a little bit, had a good time party. And I guess had, you know, I can't fully talk as my mom because I'm not my mom. I'm just telling you guys what she told me. It was this, and I honestly just believe it. You know, it's just no.
We even traced Jay-Z's Gulfstream flight records using a civil aviation database favored by industry watchers. And what we uncovered only raises more questions. A former Roc Nation insider confirmed his private jet was log landing in Miami just days before one of Sean Diddy Combs' infamous freak-off weekends allegedly went down. And another sighting has Jay-Z's aircraft touching down at Teterboro, the same New Jersey airport known for flying high-profile guests to Diddy's upstate estate. That same property, now under a harsh spotlight for its alleged ties to coerced misconduct, raises the question: why was Jay-Z's jet showing up during those wild weekends, in those exact spots? Coincidence? Or calculated proximity? A former Roc Nation staffer, speaking anonymously out of fear of retaliation, put it bluntly. Jay knew what went down at Diddy's parties. Everybody who got invited knew. You didn't just stumble into those weekends, and you sure didn't bring your own crew. You used theirs for a reason.
So there would presumably be people who could verify it or say it didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems. You're right. When you mention all those people, they may all have alibis.
Well, Jay-Z certainly seems to have one.
Yeah.
So Jay-Z has mentioned that he's there with Beyoncé, but we know that Jay-Z was in New York.
Yes.
The night that it was supposed to be. Now,
the night of King Combs' of his birthday, which happens to be.
If that's true, this ain't just guilt by association. This is logistics, a paper trail. And reportedly, Beyoncé has known about it for months, maybe even years. If that's the case, her silence stops looking like self-protection and starts looking like a sharp strategy. A way to keep herself insulated from the wider mess waiting to explode. It wouldn't be the first time Beyoncé wielded silence like a scalpel. Over the years, she's crafted her own language, one without words, through symbols, body language, and pointed absences. When she erased that IV tattoo, it wasn't just ending a chapter with Jay-Z. It was something deeper. A quiet, ritual-like severance. That Roman numeral wasn't just ink. It stood for their birthdays, wedding date, their whole mythology.
Mr. Diddy, aka Mr. Love, now. Dr.
No,
Love.
Sean Carter.
Scrubbing it away wasn't some random whim. It was grief in reverse. A private funeral for a marriage the world still believed was alive. It didn't start here. Long before this latest unraveling, Beyoncé was already broadcasting her inner cracks through carefully staged transformations. That infamous pixie, cut back in 2013, dismissed at the time as just a bold style choice. Now it reads like the opening act of an emotional earthquake. According to stylists close to her camp, it was planned like a statement.
I got older and my mom just continued to say the same thing, and she never changed the name. Like, she always was staying with the same name. I'm like, well, Mom, why? Like, as I got to 16, 17, I'm like, Mom, you've been saying this since I was a kid. So it's like, now my mom never lied to me, so why?
Down to the exact timing right after her tour. It wasn't about looks, it was about shedding skin. Haircuts, rings gone, icy poses on warm red carpets. None of it was just fashion. It was control. When your voice gets picked apart and twisted, you let your body do the talking. And lately, her body's been saying something chilling. The shift in her visual identity during the Renaissance era, glittering but distant, veiled yet fierce, mirrors a woman stepping into her power alone, no longer tangled up, no longer faking partnership. This is Beyoncé uncoupled, not just from a man, but from the myth itself. Every single public appearance since then has been layering the same message. She mourned in private, burned the old vows, and now she's prepping for a rebirth. Not soft, not sorry, but sharp, surgical.
We just fought it. Like, it was never to chase anyone or make anyone feel like, we just trying to come up with a plan to take your money. I don't want your money. That's not what I'm here for. I'm really here to just find the truth out. And it seemed like that was just so hard to do in these courts. Like, these courts are not.
And already halfway out the door. And then there's Ramir, the man at the center of all this scandal, who says all he ever wanted was the truth. According to court records and statements he's given to media, he hasn't just been blocked from pursuing his claim, he's been targeted. Sources close to the case say that in the months leading up to his latest lawsuit, Ramir started getting anonymous phone calls. More than one, warning him to back off. That's what those anonymous calls were about. We're told at least 2 of them were traced to digital numbers tied to an internal roster at a major Los Angeles PR firm. The very same firm Beyoncé's team hires for crisis control and public spin. So let's ask the real question. Why would Beyoncé's people even have a reason to monitor, let alone contact, the alleged son of her husband? She's never claimed his family. So why would her crisis squad be circling a paternity case filed by a stranger? Unless that stranger was a lot closer to her world than we were ever supposed to know. And if Beyoncé truly had nothing to do with burying the truth, why does her name reportedly show up in the metadata of legal emails tied to this case?
Felonies, I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's
one former paralegal who briefly worked with a firm connected to the proceedings claims she was told outright, don't mention the singer. We're not supposed to name her in emails. That's not distant, that's orchestration. And it only gets darker from here. Legal watchdogs digging through the filings have flagged all kinds of shady irregularities, missing timestamps, hearings that were never even scheduled, whole affidavits sealed with no explanation at all. Multiple court clerks in New Jersey were reassigned during the exact window when Ramir's filings were allegedly delayed or misfiled. And one judge, whose name appears both in Ramir's documents and in unrelated business contracts with Roc Nation, quietly retired mid-term. No press conference, no explanation, no goodbye, just gone. If this really is a cover-up, then we're not talking about a simple favor. This smells way bigger.
Act that anybody can find.
Sure.
But what happened once he got into this party at Diddy's house is outrageous. And I know we're supposed to take every lawsuit seriously because we don't know, we weren't there. The Gloria Estefan part, that's just the start. How Beyonce gets involved.
We're talking about full-on institutional protection for one of the most powerful families in American pop culture. A whole machine designed not just to defend Jay-Z, but to shield Beyonce from ever having to answer for what she may have known. Because now the questions aren't just, is Jay-Z a father? They cut deeper into the legal mess behind that birth. Wandle Satterthwaite, Ramir's mother, was reportedly just 16 when she got pregnant. Jay-Z, already in his early 20s. If that relationship happened as alleged, and in a state where the age of consent was 17, then this fallout doesn't just stop at paternity, it crosses into potential criminal territory.
Something I really would want to find out because, in the future.
And here's the part nobody's really saying out loud yet. If Beyonce knew about this years ago, if she knew that her husband's darkest secret involved a possible statutory violation, and she still stayed quiet, what does that say about the values behind her whole brand? We've been sold Beyonce as the ultimate feminist icon, a cultural guardian, the queen of female strength and generational healing. But now, the world is being forced to reconcile that image with the idea she may have helped cover for a man, just to protect the empire they built. So the big question, is her sudden separation a righteous escape, or just a perfectly timed pivot before the bomb drops? Because let's not forget, court orders can unseal any moment. Depositions can leak, and if Ramir finally gets the DNA confirmation he's been fighting for over a decade, everything flips overnight. It won't stop with headlines. No, it'll spark fresh lawsuits, maybe even appeals to reopen cases that were quietly dismissed on technicalities. And if those sealed records crack open, records that could reveal financial transfers, internal memos, maybe even email chains between legal teams and crisis managers, then what we're staring at isn't just a broken marriage. It's the slow public implosion of a dynasty that survived everything except the truth. But now it's your turn. What if the DNA test proves Jay-Z really is the father? What if that truth exposes not just betrayal, but a possible crime? And what if Beyonce, the queen of control, knew all along and helped bury it under press tours, perfume drops, and perfectly staged Grammy speeches? Is she making her escape from scandal or hiding one of her own? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know what you believe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if you're as hooked as we are. Because if the Carters fall, it won't come from the outside. It'll come from within. Stay curious, stay bold, and we'll see you on the next one. Watch the throne.